Have you ever felt like you're auditioning for a role in someone else's life, only to be cast as an extra? Most women are taught that being enough means but the psychology of love suggests a counterintuitive truth. A woman becomes a millionaire of the soul and a true luxury the moment she stops begging for crumbs of affection. If you've been wondering why he does this or dealing with his emotional distance, it is time to stop looking at his hidden feelings and start looking at your own inner power and self-worth. You aren't here to be an option in a man's busy schedule. You are here to embody a presence so grounded that his detachment no longer has power over your peace. Are you currently exhausted by the cycle of he pulls away, leaving you to decipher the silence as if it were a coded message of his secretly loves you intentions? Perhaps you find yourself over-accommodating, shrinking your needs to fit into the small space he provides, hoping that one day he will recognize your value. This video is designed to shatter that illusion and reveal how Carl Jung might interpret the repressed emotions and the shadow work required to stop chasing and start attracting. We are going into the 7 habits that will transform your energy from a state of anxious, seeking to a state of high-value luxury that demands respect without saying a single word. By the end of this journey, you will understand what it really means behind his behavior and, more importantly, how to master your own emotional control. You will learn to move from a wounded persona to your deeper self, ensuring that you never again participate in dynamics that require you to abandon your own heart. This isn't about games or manipulation. It's about the unconscious alignment of your actions with your inherent value. If you're ready to stop being an option and start being the prize, let's dive into the emotional psychology of the woman who knows she is already a millionaire of spirit. The journey toward becoming a luxury in the eyes of others begins with a radical, almost violent, rejection of the wounded persona that many women carry as a protective shield. This persona is the version of you that believes love must be earned through labor, through being the most helpful, the most beautiful, or the most understanding partner. In the psychology of love, this is often a manifestation of the shadow, where the fear of being unworthy drives us to perform. When you are living from this wounded place, you are constantly scanning for signs he loves you, looking for external validation to fill an internal void. However, a luxury woman understands that her self-worth is not a fluctuating currency based on a man's attention. She realizes that as long as she is auditioning, she is inherently stating that she is not yet the one. To shift this, one must delve into the unconscious and dismantle the belief that emotional attachment requires self-sacrifice. When you stop performing for crumbs, you send a seismic shift through the relationship dynamic. You move from a state of lack to a state of inner power, where your presence is a gift rather than a request for entry. Jung explains that what we do not make conscious becomes our fate. If you do not make your value conscious to yourself, you will fatedly attract men who treat you as an option. This is the first step in falling in love with the self, recognizing that your luxury status is an internal reality that the world merely reflects back to you. The transition from proving to being is perhaps the most difficult hurdle for the modern woman who is used to achieving her goals through sheer willpower and effort. In the realm of love psychology, over-explaining your needs or over-accommodating a man's lack of effort is a form of emotional control born out of fear. You think that if you can just explain your value clearly enough, he will finally see it and stop his emotional distance. But luxury does not explain itself. A high-end brand doesn't beg customers to understand why its prices are high. It simply exists in its quality and allows the world to meet it there. When you are fighting his feelings by trying to force a connection, you are actually pushing him further into detachment. You must learn the art of letting go of the need to be understood by someone who is committed to misunderstanding you. This is where hidden feelings often reside, in the space where you are too afraid to be silent because you fear the silence will confirm your worst fears. But a woman who is a millionaire of her own spirit knows that silence is a tool of discernment. She doesn't use it to manipulate. She uses it because she is busy cultivating her own garden. She stops being a character in his story and starts being the author of her own. This shift in emotional psychology is what causes a man to stop seeing you as an available resource and start seeing you as a rare, precious territory that requires his best self to even inhabit. When a man experiences your emotional control and your refusal to engage in the chase, it triggers a different part of his psyche. Often, when he pulls away, it is because he has sensed that your entire world revolves around his next move, which creates a pressure that stifles falling in love. By anchoring yourself in yourself, you remove that pressure and replace it with a magnetic mystery. You begin to watch for the sign. Does he step up to fill the space you've created, or does he disappear? If he disappears, Your inner power allows you to see it not as a rejection, but as a filtering process. A luxury woman does not have time to convince a man of her value. She is too busy living a life that is already millionaire level in its richness, purpose, and emotional attachment to her own soul. This is what it really means to be a luxury. It is the total absence of the need to be chosen, because you have already chosen yourself. You understand the psychology of love enough to know that a man can only meet you as deeply as he has met himself, and if he is stuck in repressed emotions, your luxury energy will either call him higher or move him out of your path entirely. This is the ultimate expression of self-worth, a willingness to walk away from anything that requires you to shrink. The second pillar of becoming a luxury woman lies in the ability to establish boundaries that are gentle in form yet unshakable in substance. In the psychology of love, we often confuse vulnerability with a lack of boundaries. But the truth is that luxury is defined by restricted access. A woman who values herself like a true emotional millionaire has an open heart, but she does not allow her peace to be invaded by inconsistent energies. When you notice him pulling away, the instinctive response of the wounded ego is to try to fill the void with more effort, more explanations, and more concessions. However, Jung explains that this compulsion to pursue is a manifestation of our own shadow, which fears abandonment above all else. By mastering your emotional self-control, you learn to observe his emotional distance without letting it fragment your identity. Instead of panicking, you use silence as a sacred space for observation. You do not participate in dynamics that require self-abandonment. If his behavior is not aligned with your self-worth, you simply withdraw your energy. This is not a manipulation game, but an affirmation of inner power. Detachment here is not coldness, it is the awareness that your presence is a blessing, not a right automatically granted to just anyone. By keeping your focus on your own center, you stop being an available option and become a destination that demands intention and respect. Cultivating personal mystery is what differentiates a woman who is an open book from one who is a secret garden. Often, in the eagerness to create emotional attachment, women hand over all their keys, plans, and vulnerabilities too early, believing that total transparency will generate intimacy. However, emotional psychology reveals that attraction flourishes in the space between the known and the unknown. By maintaining a rich life with your own interests, goals, and friendships, you ensure that your inner world is treated as a private garden, not a public park where anyone can wander freely. This creates a natural aura of curiosity. He'll begin to wonder about your hidden feelings and look for signs that you love him, because you are not constantly validating his existence as the center of your universe. This habit of being rather than doing is what truly attracts the archetype of the conscious partner. His unconscious will sense that you are a woman who belongs to herself. That is the height of luxury in a world of disposable connections. When you are busy blooming, falling in love becomes a process of mutual discovery rather than a desperate surrender. You understand what this truly means. Mystery is not about hiding who you are, but about protecting the sacredness of your journey until he proves himself worthy to walk beside you. Emotional regulation is the ultimate tool for maintaining this posture of luxury. Instead of making the man the manager of your inner state, you take full responsibility for your own reactions and triggers. When you are faced with his repressed emotions or notice that he is struggling with his feelings, the luxury woman does not try to fix or heal him. She practices letting go, trusting that each individual is responsible for their own psychic evolution. Observe this sign. Your ability to remain at peace even amid uncertainty is what demonstrates your true value. This deactivates the cycle of anxiety that often leads to premature breakups or toxic relationships. By understanding why he behaves this way, whether due to fear of intimacy or patterns within his unconscious, freedom to decide whether this dynamic serves your greater purpose. If his actions do not align with the reality you desire, you move forward without apologies, anchored in your own psychology of love. Luxury is having the freedom to choose what enters your life and the courage to exclude what does not add value. Every time you choose pause over pursuit and no over self-sacrifice, you anchor into your nervous system the truth that you are, in fact, a rare jewel who cannot be treated as a mere option of convenience. Speaking your truth without apologizing is perhaps the most subversive act a woman can perform in a dating market that often values convenience and being low maintenance. For the woman who understands her worth as a spiritual millionaire, clarity is not merely a preference, it is a non-negotiable requirement for her psychological health. In the field of the psychology of love, many women fall into the trap of silencing their desires for commitment or exclusivity so as not to scare the man, believing that if they are patient enough, he will eventually reveal his hidden feelings. However, acting this way is a form of self-neglect that communicates to his unconscious that your needs are secondary. When you express yourself with radical honesty about your search for intentionality, you are not issuing an ultimatum. You are simply stating your reality. If he shows emotional distance, or if he pulls away in response to your truth, this is valuable data, not a disaster. The luxury woman knows what it really means when a man retreats in the face of clarity. He does not have the emotional structure to inhabit the voltage space yacht. Jung explains that the shadow of many women is the fear of being too much. But the truth is that, for the right man, your depth will never be a problem, it will be your greatest attraction. By speaking without apologies, you exercise your emotional control, not to manipulate his reaction, but to protect your own self. You stop desperately interpreting the signs he loves you and begin observing whether his actions align with his words. If there is no alignment, your inner power allows you to move your energy forward instead of remaining stuck, waiting for him to change. Truth spoken calmly is the greatest dividing line. It repels those who seek only an option and magnetizes those who recognize the rarity of your presence. Honoring the body as something sacred is the natural unfolding of someone who has already integrated her inner worth and no longer seeks validation in superficial encounters. A luxury woman understands that her intimacy involves not only the physical, but her entire nervous system and her soul. She is not a resource to be consumed, but a sanctuary to be respected. In love, psychology, access to the body should be the result of building safety and consistency, not a bargaining chip to prevent him from feeling detachment. Often, the fear that he might lose interest leads a woman to ignore her own intuition when her body says not yet. But watch for this sign. If your body contracts or you feel a latent anxiety in his presence, it is your unconscious alerting you that the environment is not safe or that he is hiding repressed emotions. By listening to this visceral wisdom, you establish a standard of luxury that few people can maintain. The process of falling in love should be a dance in which respect precedes pleasure, and in which your emotional attachment is protected until there is proof of character. When you refuse to grant access to someone who does not offer consistency, you are practicing the highest level of self. You stop asking whether he secretly loves you and begin evaluating whether he is worthy of touching your essence. This posture creates an aura of magnetism unreachable to opportunists, and deeply attractive to the man seeking a life partner because he perceives that you treat yourself the way a millionaire treats her most precious assets, with care, discernment, and absolute reverence. The transition from being an option to being luxury requires learning the art of observing his silence without allowing it to shake your foundation. When there is a void in communication, or when he is fighting his feelings, the average woman fills that space with anxiety, messages, and attempts to fix the connection. The luxury woman, anchored in her inner power, understands that silence is a teacher and a tool of discernment. She practices letting go of any outcome that is not mutual respect and peace. Why he does this, whether due to past trauma or emotional unavailability, becomes secondary to the fundamental question: does this serve the life I have chosen for myself? By focusing on your own regulation and your emotional psychology, you reclaim the reins of your destiny. You understand that falling in love with the wrong person is an invitation to shadow work, revealing where you are still seeking in another what you must give yourself. Therefore, honoring your body and your truth is an act of devotion to your own being. It is the moment when you stop asking, "Does he like me?" and begin asking, "Do I like who I am when I am with him?" This shift in perspective is what truly defines luxury. The sovereignty of a woman who knows that, with or without a man, she is already complete, whole, and infinitely valuable. Every decision not to abandon yourself and to maintain your integrity is a brick in the construction of a life that shines with the light of self-worth, permanently transforming your reality and attracting only what is worthy of your light. The true distinction of a luxury woman lies in her ability to anchor her identity in something far greater than the shifting tides of romantic validation. In the profound psychology of love, we often see individuals whose entire sense of self-worth is tethered to the presence or absence of a partner, leading to a psychological collapse the moment he pulls away. To avoid this, one must become a millionaire of the spirit, investing in a relationship with the divine, the soul, or a higher calling that remains unshakable regardless of human inconsistency. Carl Jung often emphasized that without a connection to the numinous or the higher self, The ego becomes a slave to its own complexes and the projections of others. When you have an anchor in something bigger, you no longer obsess over hidden feelings or spend your nights decoding silence. You understand that your inner power is derived from a source that no man can grant and no man can take away. This spiritual sovereignty creates a natural detachment that is deeply attractive precisely because it is not a game, but a reality. You are not looking for a man to be your everything or the manager of your happiness. You are inviting him to witness a life that is already overflowing with purpose. This shift in emotional psychology moves you away from the desperate hunt for signs he loves. You end toward a state of being where you are the primary source of your own light. By focusing on your calling, you demonstrate a level of self-worth that suggests you are a prize to be won, not a problem to be solved. This is what it really means to be a luxury. You are a complete ecosystem, a millionaire of internal resources who offers her presence from a place of abundance rather than lack. The transition from a state of fear to one of alignment is a heroic journey through the unconscious and the shadow. Most women have been programmed by a fear-based narrative that tells them they must shrink, perform, or tolerate emotional distance to remain lovable. This programming creates a wounded persona that is constantly fighting his feelings or trying to manipulate the psychology of love to ensure safety. However, Jung explains that until you confront the parts of yourself that feel unworthy of high-level devotion, you will continue to attract dynamics characterized by repressed emotions and inconsistency. To move into alignment, you must practice a radical form of letting go of the need to control his perception of you, and letting go of the fear that you will be too much for the wrong person. Watch for this sign. When you stop reacting to his detachment with anxiety and start responding with a calm return to your own center, you have reached a new level of emotional control. You begin to see why he does this, not as a reflection of your value, but as a reflection of his own internal limits. This clarity allows you to maintain your emotional attachment to your own growth, rather than to a stagnant situation. The process of falling in love with your own path is the ultimate catalyst for change. It reconfigures your vibration so that you no longer resonate with option energy. You become a person who aligns only with what is authentic and intentional, recognizing that any relationship requiring you to abandon your self-worth is not a luxury, but a liability. As you anchor yourself in this higher purpose, you realize that "secretly loves you" is a phrase that holds no power over a woman who values transparency and action. You stop being a detective of his hidden feelings and start being a curator of your own peace. The love psychology of a luxury woman is rooted in the present moment and the reality of behavior. She does not live in the potential of what a man might one day become if he finally heals his repressed emotions. Instead, she operates from a place of inner power, where she is the authority on what enters her sacred space. This is the essence of the transition from fear to alignment. You move from the fear of losing him to the fear of losing yourself. What it really means to embody luxury is to have a nervous system that is so regulated and a heart so anchored in the divine that a man is emotional. Distance is viewed as a signal for your own further expansion, not a reason for your contraction. You understand that falling in love is a sacred exchange, and you refuse to exchange your millionaire spirit for anything less than absolute alignment. By committing to this internal evolution, you teach the world how to treat you. You are no longer an option to be weighed. You are a rare, high-value reality to be honored. This is the ultimate expression of self-worth, where every choice to pause, every moment of silence, and every act of letting go serves to reinforce the truth that you are, and have always been, a luxury beyond measure. The stage of this transformation is the unwavering commitment to self-respect, which serves as the ultimate anchor for your subconscious mind. To be a millionaire of the soul, you must understand that every time you choose to pause instead of chase, you are rewriting the script of your own, the unconscious. In the complex psychology of love, the act of not pursuing a man who shows emotional distance is not a game of chicken. It is a profound declaration of your own self. Carl Jung often suggested that our external reality is a mirror of our internal state. And when you truly internalize that your presence is a blessing rather than an entitlement, the world has no choice but to respond in kind. When he pulls away, the old version of you might have panicked, searching for hidden feelings or trying to decode the silence to find signs he loves you. However, the luxury woman has mastered emotional control. She knows that if she has to abandon herself to keep him, the cost is far too high. This is what it really means to have inner power. It is the ability to remain whole, even when the external world feels fragmented. By practicing the art of letting go, You demonstrate to yourself and to the universe that you are not a beggar for affection, but a queen of your own domain. This level of emotional psychology is what differentiates the option from the luxury. A woman who respects herself enough to walk away from inconsistent energy becomes a magnetic force, because she is no longer fighting his feelings or her own. She is simply standing in her truth, understanding why he does this, whether it is due to his own repressed emotions, or a fear of falling in love is no longer your primary concern in this final phase of your evolution. Your focus has shifted entirely to the maintenance of your own luxury frequency. In love psychology, we learn that people treat us exactly how we allow them to, and by setting a high price on your time and energy, you filter out those who are only looking for a temporary convenience. If he secretly loves you but refuses to show up with consistency and respect, his feelings are irrelevant to your reality. You are no longer interested in the potential or the hidden feelings that reside in the shadow of a man who cannot meet you in the light. This is the ultimate expression of detachment. It is not about a lack of caring. It is about an abundance of self. When you embody this, you move beyond the need for emotional attachment that is rooted in lack. You become a millionaire of spirit, because you are no longer dependent on his validation to feel valuable. Jung explains that the process of individuation requires us to take back our projections. When you stop projecting your need for worth onto him, you reclaim your inner power. Watch for this sign. As you commit to this level of self-respect, you will notice that your anxiety disappears, replaced by a calm certainty that what is meant for you will never require you to shrink. The journey from being an option to becoming a luxury is a path of returning to your original, untampered self. It is about stripping away the layers of the wounded persona that thought it had to perform to be loved. By the time you reach this level of emotional psychology, you realize that falling in love is not something you do to someone else, but a state of grace you inhabit within yourself. You no longer fear the emotional distance of others because your internal world is so rich and grounded that no one else's detachment can shake your foundation. You have learned to interpret silence not as a void to be filled with nervous chatter, but as a space where your self-worth can breathe. This is the final lesson. The more you value yourself, the more the world sees you as the prize. You are a millionaire of the heart, a woman who knows that her love is a luxury reserved for those who are willing to do the work of meeting her at the summit. You have integrated the shadow, mastered your emotional control, and anchored your life in a purpose far greater than any single relationship. As you move forward, remember that you are not just a choice. You are the standard. Every breath you take from this place of inner power confirms that you are a luxury, and in that realization, you are finally free. If you wish to master the psychology of love and decode his hidden feelings, I've placed a private guide in the first pinned comment to restore your inner power. Click the link below to finally understand what it really means when he retreats into silence. Take control of your self-worth and end the emotional distance between you today. If today's practice felt powerful, there is one specific psychological trap I detailed in my previous video that could still be neutralizing your signal. It explains exactly what happens in his unconscious when you stop chasing a perspective most people completely miss. Watch it next to ensure your self-worth remains unshakable while the results manifest.